Okay, I just thought I'd do a short video right quick on getting ready to install the boot cowl. So the new firewall forward manual as of, I believe, December of 2020 was a very good update. I have found a few mistakes in it related to parts and being the wrong numbers or incomplete. Also some part numbers left off, so I'm letting couple crafters know, so hopefully we'll get that updated. But I'll also, if you're following again my forum thread, building the EX3 tips and hints, I go in there in each section and I talk about these errors still. So in any case, here we are getting this boot cowl ready. Now, after I painted everything and got it all done, I can see I kind of put a light sandpaper scuff on it so it kind of looks nice. This is a titanium firewall, so it's tough and fire resistant. Using the manual, I go through and I just kind of label the holes so I know what's going to come through them. See, alternator, the coil, and so forth, the heater, cable, auxiliary, fire. Anyway, you can go through. I just kind of put a label on my mark which ones are going to actually be the engine mount holes here. Before you put the blanket on the other side, the insulated blanket, we're going to go through and we're going to put nut plates on certain areas that the nut plates, of course, does not need to be on the other side of the blanket. They just, because you're going to go through this side. So the things we install first were, I think, this box. We install nut plates here. This is where the shield is going to go over later. And we go ahead and install the shield screws, through there. This is the bottom of the shield cover that goes on there. The lip goes down in here, then this installs here. We put nut plates here, and I would add, I had a fuel pump go bad on the last airplane after just a few hours of use, and so I'll tell you what, once you see how hard these little screws are to get in, they'll barely even fit in here. And then being on the other side, and then once the engine is installed, you have no room to work. I put nut plates, on here on this fuel pump one also. They do. This is going in with nut plates, and these are nut plates here. And I think that was about it. It was just, you'll see, just look at the figure and the new firewall forward, and it will tell you which ones. It gives you the order of the hardware. So it'll say like this screw, this Tenderman washer, then it'll say firewall blanket, then it'll say firewall, and then it'll go to the other side, and it'll say forward side, then it'll tell you the washers and nuts and so forth. So if you don't see, if you see parts but you don't see firewall blanket, you just see firewall, then those are the parts that go through through here before you put the blanket on the back. You'll see all these clamps here. The bottom, there's a 315-3R screws which go on the back with a star washer that goes on there, so you can go ahead and tighten those down, get them just as tight as you can. Later, when we run our cables through here, we can try to tighten this lock nut, but what usually happens is it still spins out, but you might be able to get it snugged up enough. But if not, you have to go through the cockpit then with a screwdriver, which isn't that hard, but it's not as easy as doing it now, and hold the back side of that screw as you tighten it. Pay attention to which way the clamps are showing that they should be oriented, so when you put them on later, they'll be right. I go ahead and install the fuel pump, being sure this is, and these are the hoses already. So this is the gasolator, that's here. So we're installing the gasolator. As I tell you in the forum post, go ahead and put the two brackets onto the gasolator loosely with these screws on the side. These are those 3H3As, which got hole drilled heads. Anyway, do that. So have these brackets here, and then when you put I believe that was a 22 size grommet there, it goes in that big hole, and then go ahead and put your hardware on the back side of this. You can kind of see. Not really. I'll show you on the other side. But you go ahead and install, the adapter that goes through there and the nut that's on there. And then I use Armor All, and Armor All is a great thing to use whenever you're pushing stuff. You need to push stuff through tight areas, wires through grommets and stuff that are tight. Spray it with a little Armor All. Armor All will completely leave with no residue at all, so it's really good. So just a little Armor All. You can put your hand on the inside of this area where the gasolator cover is going to go later, or the fuel connector cover there. So you can put some pressure there behind it, and then you can push on this side and wiggle and twist it till you get it through there. And then once you've already got your brackets in, so you're gonna line them up. So obviously then the hose is coming from here. So this is the fuel that's coming into the gasolator, is coming here. So this is obviously the fuel flowing to the engine. So you wanna pay attention to your fuel filter. It's twisted around where you can't see it, but it actually has an in and out. So obviously this will be the inside on this side, and this is the outside. And then again, inside of the fuel pump, and that's gonna be going out then to the engine. That'll actually come back around, go to the fuel pump on the engine, the mechanical fuel pump. So that's the direction of the fuel flow. If you've got an older kit, this is the new modification that they did. The first kits they shipped with the fuel filter attached directly to the fuel pump, the auxiliary fuel pump here. It was under the shield, and it was a 10 micron, which is an extremely small fuel filter. And I believe I heard some people saying they were having problems with, it was such a small filter, it was collecting a lot of debris in there, so it was getting kind of clogged up. So you're having to clean them. Now they've gone to a 62 micron fuel filter. I have gone back and gotten the parts from Cup Crafters. There's actually a service bulletin out also which talks about this, how to change this over. So you have to get this fuel line, I think this fuel line, maybe another fuel line that replaces the ones that were here before. It makes it much easier. Then once you've got the shield, there's a splash shield that goes across here, obviously to here. So they put this to the outside. This just slips out, so really you can just loosen this nut, slip this out, attach to the end of the hose, bring it to the side. You can easily change or clean out that fuel filter. So the 62 micron obviously is a lot bigger, but it's still smaller than anything that's going through the fuel servos. This is the clamshell. You can see that it goes to this side. You're gonna have to I just put one nut just lightly on here right now and screw, and because it's going to take all this space to get the sensor, mini sensors right there have got to go through it, and they'll just barely fit through that hole. I mean, you may even have to take a file and notch down just a little bit to get them through there. It's so tight, but once it goes through there, then you'll run them through here, and then you can go ahead and close it up. So don't go to all the trouble of putting this on and tightening it now, because you're just going to have to undo it later. Here you can go ahead and you can install all your fittings on your this is your oil pressure transducer or sensor. This is going to be for a cable to go through. Again, this goes on before the blanket also. This nipple goes through, this one goes through. It's got a washer, and then on the other side you've got a nut and the other fitting. So anyway, once you get those parts on, you'll go to the back side. Once you got the ones we talked about, this and the nut plates on, then you can come back in and install your blanket on the back side. Make sure you already got your defroster installed, and install the blanket. You're using that High-Tac 76 from 3M. It's getting kind of hard to find. You used to get it on Amazon. Now I can't. I got it through Granger. This last can I had to get. I go ahead and install my static source fittings right here and get those all done and ready to go, which are plastic pieces here. We'll go on later. I've actually found that it is easier just to go ahead and put the boot cowl on, and you've got plenty of room to come through here. Then you can install these. You'll cut them back to where you need it. Heat these up just a little bit. If you got a heat gun or whatever, heat this up, soften the plastic just a little bit. It'll let it expand, and you can slide it over these pieces for a tight fit. One thing I want to make sure you pay attention to is that this is going to be the grounding lug from the fuselage. So you want to make sure you've cut this back enough to where you're when you put this piece, which is going to meet up against it. See, we've taken all the paint again off of this, so it'll go up flush against that, and this is going to touch the metal all the way through to the other side of the engine mount. And then we've got a grounding wire that's going to go through the engine mount and go through, and this is your ground. So be sure you get that good. So the back side here, then you can see once you put your grommets in, you just come to the back side, take a screwdriver, and get up kind of a flat, dull screwdriver, come across the edge of this, and you just kind of work this grommet around to where the vinyl's underneath. It isn't that hard once you kind of figure it out, but put all your grommets in. This is the box that's coming through for your heater. And just make sure, for some reason, these things kind of get hard sometimes. I'll lubricate the hinges on to make sure they're working good. I go ahead and install the low point drain there with all the fittings, and then get it ready. The fuel line coming from the fuel selector is going to go into here, so I already have the nut and everything ready in place to install that once we get ready to install the boot cowl. This is where you're going through for the gasolator here. You can see that these are actually so close. I put these tenements underneath the grommet there. This is the back side of the auxiliary heat. So again, you'll see there's a little strip of metal right here. It's just a weird kind of a deal. This just butts up. This piece comes from the box on the other side, sticks through. You then take this with a little wrap of this piece of metal, aluminum around it, put them together, and you use 2 hose clamps. Clamp it to either side, and as tight as can be. Then go ahead and run your, I think it's 1.5 inch scat line up to here to your defroster unit. I go ahead and put all my hardware on this arm, so later the cable is going to come down and we'll attach the cable to that. And I think that's about it. I just put a little weight on this side of what I'm working with it to hold it steady. Turn this light off. So that's the back side of the boot cowl. And again, when we install it, I'll come back again a little later, but we've got rods that we're gonna put through here, just some little aluminum rods I got from Lowe's, and just kind of bullet the ends down a little bit where they slide in easily. And those rods will stick out. We're gonna slide the boot cowl on, bring it forward, and then we're gonna actually attach some little ratchet straps onto here and back to there to actually pull it to get it to last a bit on until we get it back over to this edge right here. We'll put some masking tape along here and down along this area here where we're going to overlap it. And everything else we've got ready to go on here. You can kind of see, I'll just go ahead and talk a little bit about this. We got our cables in line, and what I do is I'll look at the back of the boot cowl and say, okay, where is this heater cable gonna go through? And it's gonna go through like somewhere over here. It's gonna go so far above, it was like this far up or something. So then I know it's gonna go here. Then I know all these coil wires, I know about where they're gonna go through. It's gonna go through like up here. So you see I've actually gone through and figured out where they're gonna go through the firewall, which is about right there. So I've gone ahead and put some friction tape, and this is gonna be on this side of the firewall as it goes through the firewall. But I kind of got this stuff laid up in the right direction. This is the manifold pressure tubes. It's gonna go pretty high and above this. So I've got it laid out in order, so it's gonna go like that. I think the easiest way to do it, I'm gonna try it this time, because I've had problems again with this hose being too flexible and it kinks. Now they got a new hose, I believe it's a little thicker wall, it's not kinking so bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and wait till I install the boot cowl. I make sure I can reach my hand up through here from inside. Then I'm gonna come up through here with my hand. I don't know if I can get around there or not. Anyway, I just made sure I could get my hand up through here. I see I left my wire, so I can get up through here. I can handle this, and then I'm gonna fit it to where it's gonna be, cut it, and then armor all on it, slide it onto the piece with a clamp. So I'm gonna try that this time and see how that works. Same thing here, you got your coil ignition wires. I routed them down here, got them all friction taped. There's nothing gonna touch anything here. I've got some rounded going all the way through where it's gonna come through. It's gonna come through just about right here to that clamshell. So this will actually go through the clamshell and give you some protection. I actually have friction tape underneath there as well, to be sure we're not getting any wear through there. All our cables here, I just went ahead where it might possibly touch the boot cowl somewhere. That defroster is coming across here. I went ahead and put some a plastic wrap around that too. Same thing with these. This one is the one that's going to the auxiliary. I'm gonna move it in just a second. I gotta bring this out. And this is actually gonna go to the outside. I need to go look again precisely, but it's gonna go to the outside, I believe, and come right down here and go to that auxiliary box that we just put in. So I'll get it routed just right. And there, make sure everything might touch the boot cowl again is wrapped. You know, here, this is a static line coming over here. And those wires are all ready to go. I'll take a lot of pictures of all this from every angle. In fact, I think even a video is good. Go around with a slow video, just putting your camera in everywhere, taking a good video. This is the plastic piece that goes on top. Do not cut them out to go under these pillows. I saw somewhere I wrote to cut these out. No, you don't. They slide underneath there and stay there. And you just got 3 little rivets. Those 081 rivets that just pop down in through that top of that panel there. And that's just protecting all the tops of your breakers, you know, from anything. And again, just go through everything, make sure you got it all done up good and everything's protected. All your grounds are good. Again, I can't stress enough on how to be sure and test all your electronics right now before you do it. Go to my forum website. I've got a whole section just on how to set up the G3X and how to test it. And I'm gonna tell you, it's when you come back and have a little problem, you forgot to plug a wire in or the ground wire not on or something, you have to go back up in here after the boot cowl is on. It's not fun at all. So it is, you can pretty much test everything in here before you do it. And as an example, you see this right here, there's a little connector right here. It has 2 wires that comes from the panel right here, and the other side here, one side comes from one of the wing landing light sides, and this other little wire, you have to put the pin up in there. Well, that's coming from the right wing down. Well, I don't know what happened. I knew I slid that pin up in there because you have to install this pin up into and just snap it in there. Apparently, when things got moved around, I hadn't snapped it securely, so somewhere along the build or when I was finishing the wiring, this pin just kind of pulled loose out of there. So in doing my testing, if you go through the charts, I even tell you how to, every switch to turn on in the panel and even how to test the lights. And since we don't obviously have the lights for the wing panel yet, I'll tell you which wire here to go to and which connector and what color wire. Put your voltmeter in there and read the volts and make sure you've got voltage that's coming through when you've got the appropriate switch on, whether it's landing lights or wigwag, you know, pulse or strobes. And test them, and you just should see the voltage there. Sure enough, when I came over to this one, I believe it's the white wire here, there was no voltage there. So I go, well, what the heck? So I figure out where it goes back into, and then I go back over here and I test it, and I see that that pin has come loose. So I popped it back up there and there real good and make sure it's secure. If I had not caught that, here's where I would have had to go in and investigate with a boot cowl on. I would have been coming up from the bottom, taking the G3X panel out, trying to come over the top, and here's this mess of wires all in the center. And that's where it would have been, right on top and right over the side. In fact, had pulled so tight, probably had pulled, that it would have been very difficult. I mean, I would have been cussing for 2 days having to do that. So I can't stress enough how important it is to test everything it is, and go to my forum website and go to the post where we talk about testing the G3X system out before you put this boot cowl on, okay? I'll be back later when we actually put the boot cowl on.